The rusted heap. The RSS Indefatigable limped into Zortek Station, trailing wisps of smoke and leaving a faint shimmer of leaked reactor coolant in its wake. Captain Nora Harwood gripped the cracked leather of her command chair as the Dreadnought shuddered through the docking procedure, the ship's abused superstructure groaning in protest. On the view screen, a bustling alien spaceport stretched out before them, a kaleidoscope of strange ships and stranger beings. Slick corvettes bearing the sigil of the Zordan Trading Guild, bulbous Phloxian freighters leaking exotic spores, even the occasional Kruptaw warship, all polished obsidian and flickering portal drives, a hole in space and time. And in their midst, the Indefatigable, an ancient rust bucket from the early days of humanity's extrasolar expansion. 185 meters of pitted steel, obsolete weapons, and fading EM shielding held together by little more than the grit and determination of her crew. Nora felt a swell of pride at that, even as she watched the aliens point and stare, their expressions ranging from curiosity to open disdain. "Never seen a human ship before, Cap'n," Commander Li Jian quipped from the tactical station, his voice tight with forced levity. "We're a rare breed out here in the far reach." "Oh, they've seen us," Nora replied, her eyes narrowing at a sleek Zorban courier that buzzed past, its occupants making no attempt to hide their laughter. "Just never expected to see us again." She couldn't blame them, not really. The Indefatigable was a relic, a reminder of a time when humanity had stood alone against the dark of space. But the galaxy had moved on, new powers rising as mankind faded to a half-remembered footnote. The great human fleets were gone, their colonies lost or abandoned, their once mighty dreadnoughts now little more than space junk. But not her ship, not her crew. They were the last of the old guard, refusing to fade quietly into the night. Dangerous cargo. "What's the word on our cargo?" Nora asked, glancing over at the sensor console where Ensign Ava Novak was hunched over her display. "The containment field is holding steady," Novak reported, her brow furrowed with concentration. "But the energy readings are off the charts. I've never seen anything like it." Nora felt a flicker of unease. The artifact had come aboard at Tannhauser Gate, an ancient human way station now little more than a haunted ruin. They'd found it in the depths of the abandoned research labs, a strange crystalline cylinder that pulsed with an inner light. Even now, secured deep in the Indefatigable's hold, she could feel its presence, like a weight pressing against her mind. The Galactic Authority had declared Tannhauser off-limits, a quarantined graveyard to be left to the ghosts of the past. But for Nora and her crew, the lure had been irresistible. A chance to recover lost human technology, to prove that mankind was not done fighting. If only they had known the true nature of their prize, or the lengths others would go to claim it. Unwanted attention. "Captain, we've got incoming," Li Jian called out, his voice tight with warning. "Zorban interceptors, 3 of them. They're demanding we stand down for inspection." Nora's lips thinned. So it began. The Zorbans rarely troubled themselves with derelict human ships, content to let them limp from port to port as living memorials to a dying race. But the artifact changed everything. "Stall them," she ordered, her mind racing. They couldn't afford a confrontation. Not here, not with the Indefatigable in such desperate need of repair. But they couldn't allow the Zorbans aboard either, not with the artifact in the hold. "Incoming transmission from the station," Comm Officer Kai Nakamura reported, his voice strained. "It's Administrator Vox. He's not happy." The view screen flickered to life, filling with the glowering visage of a high-ranking Zorban official, his scaled skin flushed an angry crimson. "Captain Harwood," Vox hissed, his forked tongue flicking out to taste the air. "Your presence here is a violation of Zorban law. Stand down and prepare to be boarded. Failure to comply will result in the immediate destruction of your vessel." Nora met his gaze unflinchingly, even as her heart hammered in her chest. They were trapped, caught between the station's guns and the incoming interceptors, but she would not give up her ship or her crew without a fight. "Administrator Vox," she replied, her voice cold as the void. "The Indefatigable is a human vessel, operating under human law. We do not recognize your authority here." It was a bluff, a desperate gamble. But it was all they had. The Zorbans were opportunists, scavengers picking over the bones of a once great civilization. They wouldn't risk an incident, not over a single derelict ship. Would they? A rumor of power. In the depths of Zortek Station, in a darkened room filled with the click and whir of alien machines, a cloaked figure studied a flickering holographic display. The Indefatigable hung in the air before them, a battered steel coffin drifting amid the sleek shadows of Zordan ships. But it was what lay within that caught their interest. A pulsing sensor return, a whispering energy signature that promised power beyond imagining. The figure smiled, a thin slash of teeth in the darkness. The game was afoot, and this time, the prize would be theirs. In the halls of the station, rumors spread like wildfire, whispers of a human ship carrying a cargo of incalculable value. Zorban merchants huddled in smoky back rooms, calculating the profit in plunder and blood. Fluxian data brokers traded secrets in the fungal gloom, each seeking an edge in the coming struggle. And in the shadows, other powers stirred, drawn by the scent of ancient technology and the lure of forgotten knowledge. The Indefatigable had brought more than just a relic of humanity's past to Zortek Station. It had brought chaos and opportunity, calling in favors. "Get me Raska." Nora's voice was tight as she stalked into her ready room, the door hissing shut behind her. The Zorban interceptors were still out there, a looming threat she couldn't ignore. But right now, she needed allies. The comm unit crackled to life, the holofield shimmering as a cloaked figure took form. Raska was a Floxian, her fungal flesh shifting in hypnotic patterns beneath her hood. "Captain Harwood," Raska purred, her voice a rustling whisper. "It's been a long time." "Too long," Nora agreed, a wry smile tugging at her lips. "I need your help, Raz. We've got trouble." The Floxian leaned forward, her eyes glinting beneath her hood. "Trouble is my specialty, but it will cost you." Nora met her gaze unflinchingly. "It always does. But this is bigger than a few creds or a crate of contraband. The Zorbans are after my ship. They think we have something valuable." "And do you?" Nora hesitated. Raska was an old friend, but in the far reach, information was the most valuable currency of all. "We have something," she admitted finally. "An artifact from Tannhauser Gate. And whatever it is, the Zorbans want it badly." The Floxian was silent for a long moment. Then she nodded, a slow dip of her hood. "I'll see what I can do. But Nora, be careful. There are whispers in the fungal groves, rumors of ancient power resurfacing. You may have stepped into something far larger than you realize." Jury-rigged repairs. The Indefatigable's engine room was a cacophony of noise and activity, the thrum of abused reactors mixing with the shouts of harried engineers. Chief Engineer Amir Singh stood at the center of the chaos, his face streaked with sweat and grease. "Reroute power from the auxiliary systems," he bellowed, his voice straining to be heard over the din. "And someone get me a status report on the EM shielding." Beside him, Lieutenant Olivia Dubois, her normally pristine uniform stained with coolant, shook her head. "It's no good, Chief. The shielding matrix is fried. We'll need a complete overhaul." Amir's jaw tightened. Without proper shielding, they were vulnerable to everything from cosmic radiation to enemy sensors. But an overhaul would take weeks in a fully equipped dry dock. They didn't have that kind of time. "Jury-rig it," he ordered, his mind racing. "Cannibalize parts from the secondary systems if you have to. I want that shielding operational, even if it's held together with spit and baling wire." Olivia looked dubious, but she nodded, already turning to relay his orders to the rest of the engineering team. They were the best in the fleet, or at least what was left of it. If anyone could work a miracle, it was them. But as Amir watched his team scramble to patch up the Indefatigable's battered systems, He couldn't shake the feeling that they were fighting a losing battle. The ship was old, her glory days long behind her. And out here, in the lawless expanse of the far reach, the old and weak didn't survive long. A traitor in their midst. In the shadows of the Indefatigable's lower decks, a lone figure crept, their movements furtive and hurried. Ensign Avanovik, her face tight with fear and determination. She hadn't meant for it to go this far. When the Zorban agent had approached her on Tannhauser Gate, offering a small fortune for any information on the Indefatigable's mission, it had seemed like an easy score. A few snippets of intel, nothing that would compromise the ship or her crew. But then they'd found the artifact, and everything had changed. The Zorbans weren't just curious anymore. They were desperate, and desperate people did dangerous things. Ava's hand shook as she removed the small, innocuous-looking device from her pocket, a Zorban data beacon designed to transmit through even the thickest shielding. All she had to do was plug it into the ship's network, and the Zorbans would know everything. The artifact's energy signature, the Indefatigable's weakened state, even the number and disposition of her crew. It was betrayal, pure and simple. But what choice did she have? The Zorbans had made it clear what would happen if she failed. Her family on New Prague, her little sister just starting university. They would all pay the price. Ava closed her eyes, fighting back tears. She was a Novik, a proud daughter of one of the oldest spacer clans. Loyalty to ship and crew was in her blood. But sometimes, blood wasn't enough. Sometimes, you had to do what was necessary, even if it meant damning your own soul. With a shaking hand, Ava plugged the beacon into the network access port. The device blinked once, twice, then began to pulse with a steady, baleful light. It was done. The Zorbans were coming, and God help them all. No turning back. They're powering up weapons. Lee John's voice was taut with barely contained fear as the sensor console screamed a warning. On the view screen, the Zorban interceptors loomed large, their gun ports glowing with gathering energy. Nora's jaw tightened. They were out of time. "Helm, get us out of here," she ordered, her voice cutting through the rising panic on the bridge. Maximum burn. Ensign Yuki Sato, the Indefatigable's pilot, hesitated, her hands hovering over the controls. "Captain, the only clear vector is into the maelstrom. If we enter that, we die," Nora finished grimly. "But if we stay, we die anyway. At least in the maelstrom, we have a chance. Punch it." Yuki swallowed hard, then nodded. Her fingers flew over the console, the ship's abused engines roaring to life. The Indefatigable surged forward, the Zorban ships receding behind them as they plunged headlong into the swirling chaos of the maelstrom. Immediately, the ship began to shudder, the hull groaning under the assault of conflicting gravimetric forces. The view screen became a kaleidoscope of twisting colors and distorted light, the normal laws of physics breaking down in the maelstrom's grip. "Shields are failing," Li Jian reported, his knuckles white on his console. "We're being hit by some kind of energy discharge, like nothing I've ever seen." Nora gritted her teeth, fighting to keep her balance as the deck heaved beneath her feet. They were flying blind, at the mercy of forces beyond their comprehension. But they had no choice. The maelstrom was their only hope, a slim chance at survival in a universe that seemed determined to crush them. "Steady as she goes, Yuki," she called out, her voice a lifeline in the chaos. "Trust your instincts. The Indefatigable will hold together. She has to." But even as she spoke the words, Nora couldn't quite make herself believe them. The maelstrom was a death trap, a swirling vortex of exotic energy and twisted spacetime. Ships that entered its depths were rarely seen again, and those that were, well, there were some fates worse than death. Whispers of the void. In the Indefatigable's hold, secured behind layer upon layer of shielding and containment fields, the artifact began to pulse, its crystalline surface shimmering with an inner light. Havanovik, still shaking from her act of betrayal, watched in horrified fascination as tendrils of energy began to leach from the device, probing the air like questing fingers. "What is it doing?" she whispered, her voice trembling. Beside her, Dr. Raman Singh, the Indefatigable's chief scientist, shook his head, his dark eyes wide with wonder and fear. "I don't know," he admitted, his gaze locked on the artifact. "But it's reacting to the maelstrom's energy, resonating on a quantum level. It's like it's alive." Ava felt a chill run down her spine. Alive. The word seemed to hang in the air, heavy with implication. The artifact was no mere machine, no simple relic of a forgotten age. It was something more, something other. And now, in the heart of the maelstrom, it was awakening. The price of survival. On the bridge, the situation was growing desperate. The Indefatigable shook and groaned, her systems failing one by one under the maelstrom's onslaught. The view screen was a madhouse of swirling energy and distorted space, the ship's sensors useless in the face of the storm. "We're losing main power." Amir Singh's voice crackled over the comm, barely audible over the screech of overstressed metal. "The reactors can't take much more of this. We need to find a way out. Now." Nora gripped the arms of her command chair, her knuckles white. They were lost, flying blind through a nightmare of twisted physics and raging energy. But they couldn't give up. Not now, not after everything they'd endured. "Yuki, can you get a fix on our position?" she asked, fighting to keep her voice steady. "There has to be a way out of here." The young pilot shook her head, her face pale and strained. "I'm sorry, Captain. The navigational systems are completely scrambled. I've lost all reference points. We're lost." Nora closed her eyes, despair threatening to overwhelm her. Lost. In the maelstrom, it was a death sentence. They could fly for days, for weeks, and never find their way out. And all the while, the storm would tear at them, ripping away their shields, their sanity, until there was nothing left. But then, from the depths of her despair, a flicker of hope, a memory long buried of an old spacer's tale heard in a dingy bar on the edge of civilized space. "The eye," she whispered, her eyes snapping open. "Yuki, scan for gravimetric anomalies. Anything that could indicate a stable point in the storm." The pilot frowned, but complied, her fingers dancing over her console. For a long, heart-stopping moment, there was nothing. Then, "There!" Yuki exclaimed, her voice rising with excitement. "A null point in the gravimetric flux, bearing 225 Mark 37. It's faint, but it's there." Nora nodded, a grim smile tugging at her lips. The eye of the storm, a place of relative calm within the maelstrom's fury. It was their only chance. "Take us in, Yuki," she ordered, settling back in her chair. "And pray that the old tales are true." The Indefatigable plunged onward, diving deeper into the heart of the maelstrom, guided by a flicker of hope and the indomitable will of her crew. But in the depths of the ship, in the shadowed recesses of the hold, the artifact pulsed and glowed, its purpose still a mystery. And in its light, the shadows seemed to move, to whisper with the voices of the void. A sanctuary in the storm. The eye of the maelstrom was a place of eerie calm, a pocket of stability amidst the raging chaos. The Indefatigable drifted in the center of the null point, her battered hull shimmering in the ethereal light that seemed to emanate from nowhere and everywhere at once. On the bridge, Nora let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. They had made it. Against all odds, they had found sanctuary in the heart of the storm. "Damage report," she ordered, her voice sounding strangely muffled in the unnatural stillness. "Shields are down to 15%. Li Jian reported, his brow furrowed as he studied his console. "Hull integrity is compromised on decks 7 through 12, and we've lost long-range sensors and comms." Nora nodded grimly. The Indefatigable was hanging by a thread, her systems pushed to the brink by the maelstrom's fury. They needed time to repair, to regroup. But in the depths of the storm, time was a luxury they couldn't afford. "What about the artifact?" she asked, turning to face Dr. Singh. "Any change in its status?" The scientist hesitated, a flicker of uncertainty crossing his face. It's active, Captain. The energy readings are off the scale. And it's emitting some kind of signal, a high-frequency pulse that's cutting through the maelstrom's interference like it's not even there." Nora frowned. A signal. Could it be a distress call, a beacon left by the artifact's creators? Or was it something more sinister, a lure designed to draw the unwary into the maelstrom's depths? "Can you track it?" she asked, a sudden urgency in her voice. "Find out where it's coming from." Dr. Singh nodded, his fingers already flying over his console. "I can try. But Captain, what if it's a trap? What if we're being led into even greater danger?" Nora met his gaze, her eyes hard. "We're already in danger, Doctor. The Zorbans, the maelstrom. We're out of options. That signal is our only lead, our only chance to understand what we've stumbled into. We have to follow it, wherever it takes us." The Watchers in the dark. Unknown to the crew of the Indefatigable, their every move was being watched, their every word analyzed by unseen eyes and unseen minds. In the depths of the maelstrom, ancient intelligences stirred, roused from millennia of slumber by the artifact's awakening. They were the Watchers, the guardians of the installation. For eons, they had waited, their purpose long forgotten, their very existence faded into myth and legend. But now, as the artifact's signal pulsed through the maelstrom's twisted depths, they began to awaken, their vast, alien consciousness unfolding like a flower in the dark. In their silent, shadowed halls, they observed the Indefatigable, studying the tiny, fragile creatures that dared to trespass in their domain. They saw the humans' courage, their determination in the face of overwhelming odds. But they saw also their fear, their desperation, the dark secrets that lurked in the recesses of their hearts. And they saw the artifact, the key to their long-dormant power, now pulsing with renewed purpose. The Watchers had no concept of good or evil, no understanding of the petty struggles and rivalries that drove the creatures of the galaxy. They knew only their duty, their ancient charge to protect the installation and its secrets from those who would misuse them. And so, as the Indefatigable drifted in the eye of the storm, the Watchers made their decision. The humans would be tested, their worth weighed against the scales of an alien judgment. And if they were found wanting, then the maelstrom would claim them, as it had claimed so many before. The signal's source. "I've got it." Dr. Singh's voice rang out across the bridge, breaking the tense silence. "The signal. I've traced it to its source." Nora was at his side in an instant, her eyes locked on the console's display. "Show me." The screen flickered, then resolved into a schematic of the maelstrom, the Indefatigable's position marked by a pulsing blue dot. And there, deep within the swirling vortex of the storm, another dot, this one a steady, unwavering red. "It's a structure of some kind," Dr. Singh breathed, his voice tinged with awe. "A installation buried in the heart of the maelstrom. And it's massive, Captain. Miles across, with an energy signature that's off the charts." Nora felt a chill run down her spine. A hidden installation, lost in the depths of the most dangerous region of space known to humankind. What secrets did it hold? What power? "That's where we need to go," she said, her voice firm with resolve. "Whatever answers we're looking for, whatever the artifact is trying to show us, it's there." She turned to face her crew, seeing the fear and uncertainty in their eyes. But beneath that, a flicker of something else, something she recognized all too well. "Hope. I know you're afraid," she said, her voice ringing out across the bridge. "I am too. But we've come too far to turn back now. That installation is our destiny, the key to everything we fought for. And we will reach it, no matter the cost." She took a deep breath, feeling the weight of command settling on her shoulders like a mantle. "Yuki, plot a course. Le Jen, divert all power to shields and engines. We're going in. And as the Indefatigable surged forward, plunging once more into the maelstrom's swirling depths, Nora felt a strange sense of calm settle over her. Come what may, they would face it together. As a crew, as a family, and as the hidden installation loomed before them, its ancient halls waiting to be discovered, she knew that whatever they found within, it would change the course of history, for the Indefatigable and for all of humankind. The only question was, would they be ready for it? The heart of the mystery. The alien installation loomed before the Indefatigable, a vast cyclopean structure of twisting spires and pulsing energy fields. It hung in the heart of the maelstrom like a spider in its web, ancient and inscrutable, waiting for its prey. On the bridge, Nora stared at the view screen, her eyes wide with awe and trepidation. In all her years of spacefaring, she had never seen anything like it. The installation dwarfed the Indefatigable, making the mighty Dreadnought look like a child's toy in comparison. Incredible, Dr. Singh breathed, his voice hushed with reverence. The energy readings, they're beyond anything I've ever seen. This place, it's not just old. It's ancient. Millions of years, maybe more. Nora nodded, a chill running down her spine. An alien relic hidden away in the depths of the maelstrom. What secrets did it hold? What power? And the artifact? She asked, glancing at the scientist. Is it reacting to the installation? Dr. Singh nodded, his eyes glued to his console. Like a resonance. The closer we get, the stronger the signal becomes. It's like it's calling to it. Nora took a deep breath, steeling herself for what was to come. They had followed the artifact's signal this far, risked everything on the chance that it would lead them to answers. There could be no turning back now. Take us in, Yuki, she ordered, settling back into her command chair. Nice and slow. Let's see what this place has in store for us. The Indefatigable crept forward, her sensors probing the installation's defenses. To their surprise, there was no response, no sign of active resistance. It was as if the installation was waiting for them, inviting them inside. And then, as they crossed some invisible threshold, the artifact came to life, its crystalline surface blazing with blinding light. The Indefatigable shuddered, caught in the grip of an immense unseen force. Captain, Yuki cried out, her hands flying over her console. We're being pulled in. I can't break free. Nora gripped the arms of her chair, her knuckles white. This was it, the moment of truth. Whatever awaited them within the installation, they would face it together. Steady on, she called out, her voice calm and clear. Let it take us, but be ready for anything. And as the Indefatigable was drawn into the installation's cavernous docking bay, the secrets of the ancients waiting to be unveiled, Nora knew that their greatest trial was yet to come. The Warlord's Gambit. The installation's interior was a labyrinth of glowing corridors and vast, echoing chambers, each more alien and incomprehensible than the last. Nora led her team deeper into the structure, the artifact pulsing in Dr. Singh's hands like a living thing. What is this place? Ava whispered, her eyes wide with wonder and fear. What were they doing here? I don't know, Nora admitted, her gaze sweeping the strange, swirling symbols that adorned the walls. But whatever it was important. Important enough to hide away in the most dangerous region of space, important enough to guard for millions of years. Suddenly, the corridor opened up into a massive chamber, its walls lined with pulsing, crystalline structures. And there, in the center of the room, a towering column of light, so bright it hurt to look at. The core, Dr. Singh breathed, his voice filled with awe. The heart of the installation. And look, he pointed to the base of the column, where a series of intricate alien mechanisms were built into the floor. Mechanisms that looked strangely familiar. It's a lock, Nora realized, her heart pounding. And the artifact, it's the key. But before they could act on this realization, a harsh, grating voice echoed through the chamber, a voice that filled Nora with dread. "Well, well, what do we have here?" She spun around, her hand going to her sidearm. There, striding into the chamber with a look of cruel triumph, was Captain Zarax, the pirate warlord. And behind him, a squad of heavily armed Zorian mercenaries. "Zarax," Nora hissed, her eyes narrowing. "How did you find us?" The warlord chuckled, a sound like grinding metal. "Oh, I have my ways, Captain. And my friends. Isn't that right, Ava?" Nora's head snapped around, her gaze locking onto Ava's face. The young ensign was pale, her eyes filled with guilt and fear. "I'm sorry, Captain," she whispered, her voice breaking. They have my family." Nora felt a surge of anger and betrayal, but she pushed it down. There would be time for recriminations later. If there was a later. "The artifact, Captain," Zarax demanded, his hand outstretched. "Give it to me, and perhaps I'll let you live." Nora's grip tightened on her sidearm, her mind racing. She couldn't let Zarax have the artifact, couldn't let him unlock the power of the installation. But they were outnumbered, outgunned. What choice did they have? And then, from the depths of her despair, a flicker of hope, a memory of an old spacer's tale, whispered over drinks in a dingy spaceport bar. "The Watchers," she murmured, her eyes widening with realization. "Dr. Singh, the artifact. Get it to the core, now." The scientist hesitated for only a moment. Then he was moving, sprinting towards the column of light with the artifact held high. Zarax roared with rage, his men opening fire, but it was too late. Dr. Singh slammed the artifact into the waiting receptacle, and the world exploded into light. The Watcher's judgment. Nora blinked, her vision clearing as the blinding glare faded. The chamber was transformed, the walls and floor pulsing with a deep, vibrant energy. And there, hovering in the air around them, figures of light, vast and radiant, their forms both beautiful and terrifying to behold. The Watchers, the ancient guardians of the installation. Thieves. They spoke, their voices echoing in Nora's mind. "Intruders, you dare to trespass in our domain." Nora stepped forward, her heart pounding in her chest. "We are not thieves," she declared, her voice ringing with conviction. "We are explorers, seekers of knowledge. We came here to learn, to understand." The Watchers considered this, their luminous gazes boring into Nora's soul. "And what would you do with this knowledge, human? What would you do with the power of the ancients?" Nora took a deep breath, choosing her words carefully. "We would use it to protect, to heal, to make the galaxy a better place. For all species, not just our own." There was a long, tense moment of silence. And then, to Nora's surprise, the Watchers began to laugh, a sound like the ringing of celestial bells. "Well spoken, Captain Nora Harwood," they intoned, their voices warm with approval. "You are indeed worthy of the ancients' legacy." They turned their attention to Zarax and his men, who cowered under their radiant gaze. "As for you, those who seek to take by force what can only be earned, you shall face the judgment of the maelstrom." And with a wave of their luminous hands, the pirates vanished, their screams fading into the swirling void of the storm. A new hope. In the days that followed, the crew of the Indefatigable worked tirelessly to unravel the secrets of the installation, guided by the benevolent Watchers. They learned of an ancient civilization, wise and powerful beyond measure, who had seeded the galaxy with marvels beyond imagining. And they learned of the artifact's true purpose, not a weapon, as they had feared, but a key to unlocking the ancients' greatest gift, a network of installations spread across the stars, each one a repository of knowledge and technology that could lift all species to new heights of understanding and cooperation. As Nora stood on the Indefatigable's bridge, watching as the first of the installations came online, its brilliant light piercing the darkness of space, she felt a swell of pride and hope. They had done it. Against all odds, they had turned the tide. And now, with the power of the ancients at their fingertips, there was nothing they couldn't achieve. Set a course for home, Yuki, she ordered, a smile playing across her lips. We had a lot of work to do. And as the Indefatigable leaped into the stars, the light of a new dawn shining in her wake, Nora knew that their adventure was only just beginning. For out there, in the vast expanse of the galaxy, a new chapter of human history was waiting to be written. A chapter of hope, of discovery, of unity. A chapter where anything was possible. And the crew of the Indefatigable would be there to lead the way, to the very edges of the unknown and beyond. For they were human, and they would never stop exploring, never stop reaching for the stars. That was their destiny, their legacy, and it always would be.